your next speaker, who's going to talk to you about our relational migrator. So please welcome Sanjay Gianchandani.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Anya. So we're going to go back in time. I know we lost about 10, 15 minutes there, but I'm talking about going further back. About 50 years or so ago, and back in 1970, that's where the concept of relational database actually came from. And it obviously helped us get power through the age of computing, the age of internet, and over the time, a lot of organizations built a lot of applications relying on the underlying relational database technology. But as time passed, as systems evolved, computing became a bit cheaper, particularly disks became cheaper, which meant that people wanted to do things faster and wanted to there was more of a focus on scalability rather than on specifically on saving space, right? That's where MongoDB comes in. About 15 or so years ago, MongoDB came in and revolutionized the world of databases with the power of the document model, of course. Now, the problem is, all the organizations who had invested so much effort on the RDBMS, they want to come to MongoDB, but what they're struggling with is the transition part. They want to make sure that, because these are business critical applications, they want to make sure that when they make that transition, it's done successfully, they're using MongoDB correctly, and all of that. But that journey is really the challenge. And what we're going to talk about today is the Relational Migrator. That's a free tool and pretty much a relatively new tool from MongoDB that's supposed to help you with all of this. So I'm Sanjay Gianchandani, and I'll take you through, well, I have a few demos prepared as well, but I think we'll just do a video instead in the interest of time. Yeah, let's just get started. So just before we talk about the tool itself, I just want to see how many people here, can I get a show of hands maybe, who are actually planning a migration from RDBS to MongoDB, something in the works? Okay, a few hands going up. Good news, you guys are in the right talk. I don't know about the others. Just kidding. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about this and hopefully get you on the right path to become more confident. Follow-up question for those of you all who raised your hands. How are you doing on the strategy? Are you feeling confident? You think you're almost ready to do the transition? Can I, again, get a show of hands of somebody who's feeling confident on this? I don't think I see any hands. OK, well, that's actually to be expected, not a surprise at all, because honestly, this is really like an open-ended research topic even. And you can actually, well, you don't really realize all the pitfalls and all the issues until you get started into it, until you actually dig into it. And when you find all of those issues, then you need to obviously pivot and resolve those issues as and when they come up. So to be confident of this strategy requires a lot of investment, a lot of effort. So this is what a standard, maybe not standard, but this is a very common relational model. This is actually from a real-world production schema design of a known customer for us. And as you can see, there's a lot of tables. Wow, really, quite a few tables, isn't it? With MongoDB, typically you will have a lot fewer tables, right? And what you want to make sure is that some of these tables you'll be lifting and shifting, but for the most part, you'll actually be combining a few of them, making sure you're embedding the documents in the right way to make sure to get the most out of MongoDB. Because if you just lift and shift, it's not going to work. MongoDB is not designed for handling relational data in this kind of form. So what you really need to do is you need to make sure that the schema is actually well handled. But apart from that, there are other aspects as well. So from our point of view, from MongoDB, we have actually given this a lot of thought. Obviously, we want you guys to come over to our side. So we've given this a lot of thought. And in our head, according to our thought process, there are really 4 key areas, 4 key challenges that you need to solve or just make sure that you have figured out how to proceed. The first one is just about picking out an application. Most of the organizations that we engage with, all of them pretty much have hundreds of applications built since forever, right? And they need to pick out one application to make sure that they're able to do that correctly and then expand to the rest of the applications if the first one goes successful. So picking out the first one is actually very important. You need to make sure that technically it's feasible to do. You want to make sure you have the expertise in-house, and well, if you want, you can also reach out to MongoDB for our expertise. But the point is, you need to make a good, solid business case for one application. That's just the first hurdle. The next one is about finalizing the data model. What I just talked about on the previous slide, you have all of those tables. You want to make sure that you are actually moving to a schema design more suited for MongoDB, right? So you need to make sure that somebody who knows the data well enough, who knows how this data will be consumed, all of that, so that they can help you redesign your schema for MongoDB. And obviously for that, they need to also be somewhat familiar with MongoDB design principles. The problem is, such resources are not common. They're not that easily available. Somebody who has the vast knowledge of the existing data and who also is aware of how best to transition it into MongoDB. So that's the second part of the challenge. Once you have figured out, then you will obviously be more suited for creating a scalable system. But schema design is going to be the second issue. The third one, so after you've solved the application, you've figured out the schema design, the third hurdle is just making sure that you guys are confident of being able to do the cutover. Because the cutover is the time when your application is actually going to be down. When you stop your application, when it's talking to the RDBMS, and bring it up again to talk to the MongoDB, your future system. And that cutover part, obviously nobody can, today's age, nobody can really afford an extended downtime. So what you want to do is you want to make sure it's the minimal downtime that you get. But at the same time, it's equally important, or maybe even more important, to make sure that the data is actually migrated correctly, because a lot of the industries actually can't tolerate data loss. Might come as a surprise to some of you, no? So data loss is obviously not an acceptable option, but what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're able to do this iteratively, you're able to come up with a prototype to gain the confidence in the cutover process. You want to make sure it's less, the cutover duration, but also that the data has gone through completely fine as you would want it. So that's the key challenge, the third key challenge. The fourth part, even after these three hurdles, the fourth one is the application refactoring. Now, you want, once your new database is up and running, you want to make sure your application is still able to talk to this database. Otherwise, it doesn't really serve the purpose. So the application refactoring is a part that's the final challenge maybe. But that's not just about the application itself, because RDBMS actually have this interesting notion of allowing you to embed business logic inside RDBMS itself, the stored procedures, triggers, whatnot. So obviously, it's not going to be any good if you just bring the data, you're able to migrate your application, but a lot of those business logic components are still only there in RDBMS. You want to bring them over as well, right? So that's going to be the fourth challenge, to handle all of this refactoring, to make sure that your application is geared for success for working against MongoDB and not on the old system that was on. So that's where our solution, this free tool, Relational Migrator that Sahir mentioned in the keynote as well, comes into the picture. So what does Relational Migrator do? It helps you solve the schema problem. It helps you design an effective MongoDB schema, taking into basically Gen AI capabilities which analyze your current schema to see the relation between the tables and accordingly suggest that this is probably a better way to go. It also helps you migrate, and while migration, you're actually allowed to do real-time transformation of your data as it moves from RDBMS into MongoDB. You're allowed to address all of that. And finally, it helps you move all of the code artifacts. It helps you modify or bring your code into the modern world of MongoDB as well. So these three aspects are all addressed by Relational Migrator. In terms of supporting different types of database, today we are supporting 5, actually 6. This is missing one. DB2 is also in public preview today, along with Sybase. All the other 4 have already been out for a while. So these 6 databases are supported by Relational Migrator. And it doesn't matter where you've deployed them. It could be on the cloud. It could be on-premise. Doesn't matter as long as Relational Migrator is able to connect to them. So you would probably need a firewall exception or something. It doesn't matter. It will be able to use that as a source. In terms of destination, again, absolutely does not matter where your MongoDB is deployed. In fact, the demo that I had prepared, I had it on my laptop. I had it running for on my machine. So it doesn't really matter where your MongoDB deployment is. It could be on Atlas, cloud, on-prem, self-managed, whatever. as long as Relational Migrator is able to connect to it, it can be used as a destination. In terms of scenarios, supported scenarios, and that's really the key thing. We have for a while supported the snapshot-based migration, but that's actually not the best way to do it because it involves a really long cutover that I talked about earlier. Essentially, what you want when you're doing a snapshot-based migration, you first stop your writes to your source database, then do the migration, and then bring your application up again. That's could be a really long time depending on the size of the data and the time that the migration takes. A better way to do, and Relational Migrator now supports this is a very new feature, is the continuous CDC. So what happens in this scenario is that you don't stop the writes. You simply start the migration process. Relational Migrator fires up, it reads your data, it starts sending it over to MongoDB. And once this initial snapshot is transferred, it then continues to monitor your source database for any further changes, for any further writes that happen on the source database. And it continues to push them onto your MongoDB deployment as well. Now, how does this help? This helps because at this point, the bulk of your data is already gone. So now the cutover period is simply about turning off your application, pointing it to MongoDB, and bringing it up again. It's going to be much, much lesser in duration. And since you're able to do it iteratively through this tool, you should get more confidence in getting there successfully. So the first aspect of all of the three things that we talked about, the first aspect is literally just about being able to transform your data from all of those messy tables that we saw and convert it into a schema more suited for MongoDB, right? We want to make sure that it's able to embed all the tables, all the information that needs to be embedded, the different data patterns that go with MongoDB NoSQL design. And if you want to calculate some fields and add all of that, that should also be supported. So all of that is handled with Relational Migrator. But I've talked enough. This is the point I would have gone to the demo and shown you. But this has been some technical issue. What we'll instead do is I recorded a video earlier in the day, and they're going to play that demo instead. Can we switch over? Yeah. So this is the screen of Relational Migrator. My voice is going to be slightly lagging from this. So you're going to select which database you want to do the migration from. For the purpose of this demo, I had set up a Docker Postgres instance wherein on my local machine, where I had the Northwind sample database. There's a very popular sample DB used to demonstrate the capabilities of RDBMS. That's what we used. All of those tables, about 14 of them, will now be selected and imported into Relational Migrator. When you do this, at this point, you can obviously just do like for like, as in every table becomes a collection. But that's not for what we're trying to do. So we're going to select the option of Relational Migrator suggesting us what tables to go for. And I went past that too quickly, but it's basically 5 collections. You can see down there. So this is actually a visual tool, and it allows you to look and compare and just get a feel of what you're dealing with. It allows you to just focus on one section of the schema. So the relational tables would look something like this. You can zoom in on a particular section and just look at the data that goes there. Here, Relational Migrator was able to see that multiple orders details go into a single order. So if you look at the schema suggested by Relational Migrator, you can see that it has already embedded the order details as an array inside the orders collection. So that's the kind of intelligence we're talking about. This is not supposed to be the perfect solution. You know your data better. So look at this, but this is probably a good starting point, right? Look at this and build upon it. Add things that you want to do more. You can also add, you also have the option of restricting what data goes through when you're doing your first migration, for example. So you can set a query there, or you can select just 1,000 rows. In this case, I've selected just 1,000 rows, 1,000 orders to be moved into MongoDB when I click the migration. And maybe we want to modify the schema a little bit. So let's go ahead and play around with the order schema. And what we'll do is we'll add one more layer of embedding. So there's a slight error in the recording. It should be an embedded document. But essentially what we're doing is we can add a separate table into the same schema. And that's it. That's all it needs to do. A few clicks. And you can already see the category fields right at the bottom of that. And so this is just one area. Another thing that we can also do is we can actually transform the existing data. Because when your data has moved from an archaic legacy system and you're moving into MongoDB, maybe some of the use cases have evolved. Maybe you don't need to search for first name and last name anymore. So maybe we come up with a new computed field called full name. And we can provide a JavaScript expression to compute this field on the fly. So when it's doing the migration, it's going to compute this field and add this field and create it in MongoDB. So it's just going to prettify it with the space as well. So column first name plus space plus column last name. Now, since we're doing that, we probably don't want the first name and last name. We'll probably remove one of those as well. And yeah, that's it. We'll save and close. That's it. Our new schema is already defined. We can already see it over here. Okay, went back too fast, sorry. But right, so what we are essentially trying to demonstrate here is the capability of being able to do all of this on the fly. And again, the whole point is that you need to get confidence so you are able to do it iteratively on a lower environment. Once you're ready, then you start with the migration itself. In the migration, that's the third tab on the browser that we went for, and we selected a MongoDB target. You can select an Atlas target as well if you're logged in, which I was, but I also had a local MongoDB instance running, so I just used that. So once everything is set up, you can select whether it's a snapshot-based migration or continuous migration. Once you're happy with it, just click on Review Summary and Start. And it's going to start just like that. It's going to start moving your data from source to target while transforming, making all the transformations that you just selected. It's just about 3,000 or so records that we moved. So it doesn't take that much time to move. And yeah, in this demo, just a quick refresh, and you can already see the tables have started to appear. Well, again, it's a recording, so in the past, it was pretty quick. So the next thing that we can actually see is at this point, the snapshot itself has completed, but it's still continuing to monitor for any further writes that might still be coming on your source system. So let's try and simulate that part as well, and just make sure that data is actually going across. So what I did here was I went to the Postgres admin utility, which allows me to modify, basically a graphical interface for dealing with Postgres. And I went ahead and modified a name. Now, since this is Postgres, I need to commit that change as well. That's it, it's done. Now, what we'll do is we'll go into Compass, where, yeah, so here we should be able to see that changed data. So I would need to run the query for that particular document. It's like talking to myself in the past. So employee ID equal to 1, and that will find that same document that I just modified. And you can see the name has changed to Dolores. And you can also see that it's full name and not the other field that was there previously. This is something that we added during the transformation process. So that's the beauty of it, right? So, and when you click this complete CDC option, that's the point when you will be doing the cutover. As soon as this completes, you can turn down your, you can switch off your application, click on complete CDC, and bring it up again, point it to your MongoDB instance. Can we go back to the slides, please? Thank you. So that was a fairly straightforward demo, not a demo, but a recording, but you guys can play around with this. Remember, this is a free tool available for you to download today, but we'll get to that in a bit. So this was just the schema transformation part. The second key aspect that we talked about, and even Sahir talked about in the keynote, was the ability to transform your app to basically be able to, I mean, you've already transformed your schema. Now you need to make sure that your application is able to talk to this new schema, not the old one. You want to make sure that not just your, the queries that you've already written, they need to be translated, but they also need to be translated to work with the new data design that you've come up with. And it's not just the data itself, it's also all of these different artifacts. That's probably the most simplest stored procedure you would have ever come across. It's typically more complicated. Our customers have them much, much more complicated. But this is just for demo purposes. It can handle a lot more complex stuff. It can handle views. It can handle custom SQL. It can also handle triggers. So in terms of application modernization capabilities, the first thing that we allow you to do is we allow you to simply generate code, generate new code that you didn't really have before to deal with your schema, the new schema that you would have in MongoDB. Over and above that, we allow you to transform your existing queries in SQL and convert them into Mongo query language. This also includes any of your views or stored procedures, all of that. This is what is powered by GenAI. It basically is able to do its magic behind the scenes and convert everything into Mongo-specific stuff. And the third thing that's still in the works, coming soon, we are busily working away on this, is it basically allows you to change your data access layer, the access code in your application, and simply be able to copy paste the snippets that we come up for you in the tool. But again, let's show you. Let's stop talking, and can we go back to the second demo? Well, I'm not stopping to talk, but yeah. So we're back to the same screen. We already saw mapping and data migration. What we've not seen is the code generation tab. Here, we can immediately select a particular language, and right off the bat, you will have some basic getters and setters to deal with your data right at the beginning. That's really basic stuff, and but that's not the crazy part, right? The crazy part comes later, the stored procedures and the views. So let's import them. Again, the Northwind database that I was using as a sample did have a bunch of views and stored procedures already available. Relational Migrator allows me to import them. I can see all of them on the screen. And at this point, you can actually go and select a few of these and select the language that you want to convert them on, and simply click on Convert. Behind the scenes, GenAI, again, will do its thing, convert everything. And you can do this in the background. You can keep doing this for multiple queries. You can actually select different languages for different queries as well. Typically, your language should hopefully be in a single language and not half in C#, half in Java. But it does allow you to do that. It does allow you to handle that situation as well. Over and above that, over and above all of these queries that you can obviously convert. By the way, the latest version, which is just about to come out, makes it easier to select multiple queries in a single go. But what you can also do is you can actually write custom SQL. For the demo purpose, I wrote a really simple query: select count star from orders and click on convert. And actually, on the left side, you can already see the other queries have started to convert. The tick actually indicates that it has gone through. If you click on them, you can actually see code which you can directly copy paste and embed into your application today. So that's what Relational Migrator is really offering to you. It's not just the data migration, which is obviously a big part of it, but it's also to help you with all of this query conversion. Can we go back to the slides? Thank you. So some of you might be wondering still, why are we doing this? Why is this even needed? Although Sahir talked about this, I also started talking about this. This is basically about moving on with the times. It's just about making sure that you are able to unlock the agility and the scalability that MongoDB offers, which is not that easily available in relational databases. And we want to make sure that your business-critical legacy systems, which you really want to move but are just in sort of an inertia and a status quo mode because you're not able to take the risk, we're hoping that with Relational Migrator, you're able to not just reduce the engineering effort, because all of the app refactoring will allow you to reduce your engineering effort, but more importantly, since it allows you to do it so quickly and as everything is visual, you're able to do it iteratively, improving upon it with each pass and gaining more confidence in the entire process. Essentially, de-risking your migration plan, and hopefully next time around when I ask that question, I see more hands going up that I'm confident on what's going on, because Relational Migrator is there to help. So in terms of next steps, if you liked the recording and want to actually play around with it, unfortunately I couldn't do it, but if you like it, go ahead and download the free tool. The URL will come up on the screen in a minute. And play around with it. Start with the lower environment, not with the production. I hope everybody here knows that, not to start with the production directly. Maybe with your something on your laptop, then with a testing environment, and finally you iteratively build up and reach the levels of production. You can also reach out to your MongoDB account team to help get support from them in selecting the application, finalizing your business case, and if you need help with schema transformation over and above what Relational Migrator helps guides you for, then that is also available. And finally, start with a small component, build up, expand your entire business use case, and hopefully you will get the confidence to get there with the help of Relational Migrator. Thank you, guys. You've been extremely patient, but if I'm not sure if I have the time for questions, or should I just have done no time? OK, so if you do have questions, I will be around here. Just find me, and we can have a quick chat about this. But really, thank you for your patience. I know we sort of overran, and the demo was also, but yeah, thank you.